an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me, and I gladly stand up.
Okay, Brian Hawley, welcome on to our interview with HCGOP. My name is Jesse Berger. I'm the chairman for the county right now. Very pleased to have you on as one of our candidates for House District 53. As we get started, I'd like to just give you an opportunity to go ahead and introduce yourself to the people of the district. So take it away.
Hey, Jesse, thank you for having me today. And I appreciate the opportunity to introduce myself to not only those in Harnett County, but hopefully a lot of our constituents within Johnston County as well and around the area. Yes, I'm Brian Hawley. I am a Christian, conservative, veteran, American patriot, husband, father, fighter. And I have lived in Harnett County now for, I'd say, 34 years. Military brought me here. I was originally, I'm from Roanoke, Virginia area. Was born in Roanoke, but grew up in a place called Boone's Mill. Many people probably have heard of Franklin County, Virginia, the moonshine capital of the world. If not, that's where it's located. So my grandfather was a farmer, so I helped him a lot. It actually instilled the understanding of hard work, what it means. And as I grew up, I lost my father when I was young. I lost him when I was 13 years old. So my grandparents raised me. And I believe that if it wasn't for my grandparents, I wouldn't be here today, because many of my family have opted to go down the wrong path. So because of the Christian principles that my grandparents instilled in me, and athletics, I believe that's really what really saved me from going down the wrong way. And I'm very grateful to what they did for me, and it made me who I am today. So I graduated high school with, well, let me back up a little bit. I actually was an athlete in high school, actually through middle, high school, everything. They didn't have travel teams back when I was growing up. You had to either play in baseball or wrestling or whatever you were in, your rec league stuff. They offered some other options. So athletics is something that I stuck to. I was fairly good at baseball. I had a couple colleges looking at me. And my senior year in baseball, I got injured, messed up my ankle pretty bad. So, one of the dreams I had was to serve in the military. And so I decided at that time to go ahead and enlist in the Army. I served about 7.5 years before I was injured. I was medically retired. After that, I worked in the private sector for about 24 years. During the time that I was in the military, though, that's where I met my wife, LaRue. I don't know how that woman can put up with me for as long as she has. We've been together for 35 years. April the 27th, we'll have our 31st wedding anniversary. We have two beautiful kids. Both are 20-year-olds. They're twins, a boy and a girl, both in college, taking a break right now. Our daughter is scheduled to get married in January. That's a lot of stress on top of everything that's going on in my life. So we have to look forward to paying that big bill, which is, I'm really excited about that one. So, but my wife and I, we've been very active in the community as long as we've lived in Angier for about 20 years now. And she's actually one of our town commissioners. And I'm on I was on the planning board here in Angier. I wanted to remain active. I'm also the current chairman of our ABC board. So I'm tasked with managing a whole host of personalities. And if people that don't know a lot about the ABC system, the ABC boards around our state are actually subsections of government. They operate themselves just like a town would do. So we're writing policies. We are tasked with, maintaining a budget. We hire a general manager who does the hiring of employees. We set salaries. We do all the things that a municipal board would do. We just don't have the authority that they would as far as, handling municipal ordinances and those things. But we do set policy just like they do. And we vote on it, same legislative process that you would see functioning in any level of government. So I worked, like I said, about 24 years in the private sector. After, I saw some things that I felt were unethical. My wife and I talked about me shifting gears and returning back to school. Something that I had established for myself, well, back when I was serving, was to achieve my doctorate. That was a personal goal of mine. So I returned to school. I went semi-retired to the business world. Went back and got my associates, my bachelor degree, and my master's degree, all within 3.5 years. Very hard work. Worked really hard to do that. I was full time all the way through that time period. Summer, everything full load, every semester, every summer term. My associates was just an arts degree for transfer purposes. Accomplished that at Central Carolina. I transferred to Campbell University, where I was contemplating possible law school, but decided, I wanted to go down the policy public administration track to political science. So I focused on political science, but my track was public admin and public policy, because I enjoy that so much. And then I had a minor in history from Campbell. After that, I applied to Liberty and UNC Chapel Hill, UNC Pembroke, NC State. I'm sorry, not NC State, ECU. And I was accepted at all, but I decided, because of money, cost and everything, Liberty actually offered a program that I was more interested in, with emergency management, public administration, but a cognate in emergency management. So I opted to go that direction. Saved me a lot of money. Got that accomplished within a year, but I took economic development courses, a lot of focus in emergency management and policy. And so I feel that, the skills that I possess from God, my personal skills, my social skills, along with those that I have come to absorb through education, I think it makes a really strong asset for any level of government. And that's one of the things that I've been focused on while going to school, was to try my best to make differences in our communities. So friends of mine, we started a nonprofit back in 2019 that's called Veteran Harbor Incorporated. 3 friends of mine are retired SF operators. We were working with the Veterans Treatment Court of Harnett County, which is a regional court. And while I was there volunteering with those folks, I saw some of the challenges that many of our veterans are facing as they are going through this court system to avoid incarceration. Homelessness is regardless, it's a big issue in this area, regardless if they're veteran or not. We see that. And I think, we could do more as communities to try to address that.
Sure.
And we've been working on that a lot with some of our religious institutions, because I believe in my heart that government alone cannot fix problems. So hopefully that'll answer some of the questions of who I am, where I kind of stand on some of the things. If you have any other questions on any of that, feel free. I'm here.
Awesome. Well, hey, we're 8 minutes in right now, so we're going to go ahead and jump right into some of the kind of deep questions that I think everyone wants to ask. And first thing I wanted to do is share my screen here and just show everyone what we're even looking at. So District 53 is this pink area right here. It cuts up into Johnson County, comes down here through Dunn and up through Andrew. And I just wanted the people to know where we're talking about geographically that you're going to be representing. So with that said, I'd like to get into some of the job description. Obviously, I've asked these questions to a couple different candidates before. I don't want everyone to get the same thing, and I certainly don't want people coming on later to have an advantage. So
Yeah.
In as much as I am going to ask what is the job description, I'd like to give us a little bit of preface, which is that, you know, as a representative of the people, what are you really asking for? You're asking for us to delegate our authorities to you, and you're asking to have our authorities so that you can accomplish specific tasks for the greater good of the community. So the question is that I have is, if you're asking for my authorities to use them on my behalf, what specific authorities are you asking for? And more importantly, I guess, are you considering this as a you know, I have certain lanes in which I'm trying to accomplish things, or are you asking for more of a blank check and you want all of the authorities of the people?
It's a great question. So, um, you know, so number one, I'm a Christian. I believe that when it comes to policy, you know, that we should approach policy standpoint from a Christian worldview, asking simple questions. Should government be involved in this policy making process for this particular issue? Every issue varies. Um, as an example, government alone cannot fix an issue that affects someone's heart. And we know, as well as you and everyone should know, when it comes to criminal activity, a lot of times that is, you know, issues of someone's heart. Government cannot legislate a fix for that alone. It's not going to happen. And so I just want to make sure I lay that groundwork before I go into that. But I also want people to understand that my views, you know, all authority comes from God. You know, and it's just like in Apostle Paul's letter to the Romans, you know, that we learned to let every person, let me remember this, let every person be subject to governing authorities, for there's no authority except from God. And those authorities that exist have been instituted by God, meaning that we understand that our inalienable rights are something that God has presented. So we have the right to life, liberty, and property, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. And, you know, we know Jefferson, and I believe I'm Jeffersonian in my viewpoints. Jefferson laid out a great argument in our founding documents that led to the Declaration out of John Locke's foundings on those things, and applied his life, liberty, and property to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. And so it is a social contract that is taken from us to a representative of government. So we don't give them a full reign to go up to any political body and make every decision on their own. I believe that this, when it comes to policy, I'll give you a great example. If there's many issues going on in education right now, we've seen that throughout the country. We've seen that a lot in North Carolina. Parents, you know, parental rights and things that are going on with, you know, gender reassignments and things of this nature, even gender being taken off of Power School. Some people may not think that that's, you know, not what these programs are. And like SEL is an example, social emotional learning. I beg to differ with them. If you know anything about the left and those that are seeking to transform America, like Mr. Obama had claimed he wished to do, the left just needs one little crack in the door or window. And once they get that in and plant that seed, it's like a virus. It spreads out. And unless we have diligent people that understand policy, understand the arguments and understands what the enemy is trying to do, because even though them personally are not the enemy, the people themselves, I believe they're misguided by enemy purposes and enemy ideology. And that ideology is very destructive. And so I believe that the social contract means that me as a representative, if I were to go to Raleigh, which I really believe in my heart, God would want me there, would be to make sure that any policy that's addressing things that would infringe on individual freedoms, liberties, and our rights as families would be talked about and discussed in a forum setting before I would make a decision. I would bring it down to the people. Now, of course, we understand sometimes things are time constrained and things need to be done very rapidly. but I believe that we establish a discussion, a way to discuss these issues, because I believe in collaborative work that leads to sustainable solutions.
And if you could expand on that a little bit and maybe segue into some of your leadership styles and methodology. I'm curious as to how that will work when you're dealing with a larger body, particularly with
Yep.
people that might have disagreements.
Yep.
So yeah.
Happens all the time. It happens all the time with disagreements. We have different personalities throughout the world. I mean, and I will just say, I will fall back on one of my strengths that God has provided me is building relationships, and finding finding solutions to the issues has to be done through relationships, regardless if it's a policy on education, a policy on transportation, whatever it is. If you don't have a relationship with someone, they're not going to listen to your side of the argument. All right. So you have to understand different personalities and be able to adjust accordingly. I have a skill set where I've been very successful in business world of doing that, negotiating contracts, negotiating, all sorts of things with various types of buyers within the business world. There are those that want it their way and only their way, and you got to understand how to handle them. So you have to approach it in a sense, use what they've said in the past. Hey, remember when you told me this? That was a great idea. What do you think? And then put it into your own argument to try to make that advantageous to the cause of us. The one thing I don't like to see is compromising. I think compromise has, become it's become a word that we must be careful on. I won't say that I won't listen to people, but I will never compromise my Christian principles or American first viewpoints away for a little bit of something, because if I'm doing that, that means they're gaining something out of my little bit that I'm giving up. And I want us to start fighting back against that, because we've witnessed this for some time. I want to see us start fighting back against that and make them compromise their values away to us. We need to make sure that we are taking their advantage away every turn, every step, every opportunity we can. Because if we don't, this republic is going to be lost. I understand people don't believe that, but I'm telling you right now, I was born in the 60s. I grew up out of that civil rights era, the 70s. I feel like we're back in the Jimmy Carter era with what's going on right now. Racial tensions have gotten much worse over the last 20 years. And people can argue that all they want to, but it is because of the leftist ideology of whiteness and this and that and everything else. And unless we actually talk about these issues directly, it'll never stop.
And with that
my
said,
leadership, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, with that said, so one of the questions that I'd like to have a little bit of follow up on is when you have these body politic that are making these compromises. I in the last 20 years, in my own life, I've seen this, from high school up till now, where there's constantly compromise, constantly changes. So, what would you say is your mentality towards compromise? Because obviously there is a time and a place when you have to give a little and take a little, but it seems as though, well, it doesn't seem, it is, I would say, factual, because I've seen it with my own eyes, that over the last 20 years, we have given up and given up and given up in the name of trying to make progress. And at what point does progress not outweigh the damages that are being caused?
So if I can, that's a great question. I was talking about this similar topic yesterday, actually. I went to an event, and someone asked me, what did I think about the books that are in our public schools that our children have access to that are questionable or distasteful, like George and a few others that have illustrations of inappropriate behavior between two males and things of that nature. They asked me if I felt that we should censor or ban those books from our libraries? And I said, absolutely not. I said, my belief is that we should not be like Nazi Germany, ban books, burn books. I do believe that we have to have policy to protect our children. Okay. And what I meant by that, and I told them, was if you think about this, I don't know why it's not common sense to a lot of people in the legislative branches. Parents need to know what's there first. All right. We need to make them aware that these materials exist. Okay. But just like movies are rated, what is preventing us from establishing a rating system within our schools, public schools, so that our children are protected from those things? As an example, George, rated R, X, whatever. Okay. Parents should know those books exist. They sign a thing. My child is not to access any book above the rating of PG. Done. Therefore, if something's done and a parent finds out, the school system is accountable for that. NCDPI and all of these folks are allowing school boards to do things that they should not be doing. And the transgender movement is pushing, and we see it in some of our county. New Hanover County right now is walking away from a policy of if a child has issues of not understanding their gender, they go to the teacher is going to be jumping in. They're going to be talking about it, handling it without the parent knowledge. That is not appropriate. These are things that we've got to understand as a legislator, that what we're up against. I mean, people may think that it's not that bad, but it is that bad because we've given up a little bit. Now, compromise. Yes, compromise. It can be good. It can be bad. It is our obligation as a representative, anybody that's there, is to ensure that those compromises are not compromising away our convictions and our beliefs. In other words, if they want those books in the libraries, fine. Well, let's develop a system that protects our children from those systems or from that material. Our parents need to know they're there. Our parents should have the say if they have access or not. That's an example of how I would compromise. I wouldn't compromise to say, hey, any kid can go there and get that. The dangers are public libraries. How do we police that too? Because just because we have that covered in the public school system, what's preventing our youth to go down the street to a public library, pull out that same garbage? In my opinion, it's garbage. Pull out that same garbage and have access to it. Now, the dangers of this, people need to realize, if a five-year-old child has SEL, social and emotional learning, into their classroom, where they might be talking about gender issues, because a lot of kids, regardless of age, maybe not 5-year-olds, have access to TikTok, every social media platform known to man. They see much worse out there than those books, probably, in a lot of cases. We as legislators, we cannot protect families from that. Families have to be involved in what their kids are looking at. So there are responsibilities that families have as well. To me, I don't understand why it's so hard to understand. This is a collaborative thing that families have to be involved in, that government alone cannot fix these issues. So hopefully that kind of hits on what you're asking.
I believe so. So I'd like to segue into a next section here, because we've been kind of blending a few different topics as we've been talking, and it's
Yep.
I appreciate that, but I'd like us to focus in now on specifically the district and the state. Obviously, we both recognize, and most people recognize, that many of the issues that plague a district or plague a county or the state are usually very similar. But in terms of your approach and how you'll be able to fix things, what would you say are the primary issues that I guess caused you to feel the need to run, because there need to be change? And as a representative, what would be your lane for those specific issues?
Okay, so my leadership style, I feel that I am idealistic. So I'm an idealist, and kind of diplomatic. So I think I'm kind of both of those types of people there into one, because I believe that, I want to learn. I always want to grow. None of us are perfect. We always have room for growth, learning, and things like that. And I want everyone around me to do the same. And so every organization I've ever been a part of, that's been my goal, to train the person below me to be able to do my job in case something were to happen to me. Hopefully the person above me is helping me learn their job, their role, so that I can do that. The diplomatic side is, I believe it's to take the affiliative force and that keeps growth together, typically build deep personal relationships and bonds with people. And that is critical to any policy level you're in, whether it's municipal government, county government, it doesn't matter. Jesse, you've got to have personal bonds with people. All right. And again, that's some of my God-given talents, my soft skills. Now, I'm probably going to forget your whole line of questioning here, so redirect me if I get kind of off on a tangent.
No problem. Just trying to understand those the issues that specifically called you to service, and also what the lanes are, your right and left limits as a representative for what you would be able to work on, or maybe how you'd be able to work on things.
So what got me really wanting to be involved was, just like many veterans, we took an oath to serve and protect. Serve and protect the Constitution of the United States against all of our enemies, regardless if they are foreign powers or those within. And we always have heard, we have to be very careful of those within. And I believe that we see that. We've seen it more over the last, social media. It may have always been there, but one of the good things, I guess, of social media and technology, it has made it easier for us to recognize what's going on. It allows us the opportunities to expose things quicker, get it out to people quicker. And so one of the things that really drove me was watching what I felt was the foundings of our nation being just slowly chipped away at by the left. And, they talk about our freedoms. We talk about our the Bill of Rights, which, is the first 10 amendments to our Constitution. And those established principles that the government should not infringe on. They need to leave us alone on those. But you, as well as everybody else that's a real patriot, understands that governments attacked our freedom of speech. They've attacked our freedom of assembly, freedom of, freedom of right to bear arms. All these things are they're being attacked. And these are things that, pushed me to want to get more involved. I've heard this thing about religion, that America is not a Christian nation. I beg to differ. Our foundings, the Constitution may not refer to God in it. However, our founding documents do. Every state constitution that we have in the United States of America refers to God at least one time. All right. We refer to the laws of nature, nature's God. We refer to the Creator, divine providence in many of our founding documents. Articles of Confederation of 1777 even talks about the great governor of the world. So the belief that a divine power exists is there. And our foundings were Judeo-Christian based. And so that's really what pushed me there. And the three big issues that we are seeing that I've done surveys on within the county of Harnett was voter integrity and infrastructure were tied. All right. I'm sorry, back up. It was voter integrity and education. They were tied. And then it was infrastructure. Okay. Then it was economic concerns. Okay. So those were the top 3 or 4, however you wish to look at it, because 2 of those were tied for number 1. In Johnston County, where I've been talking to those folks, everyone is concerned with the schools, education. That is schools and education in the state of North Carolina right now is probably a big issue because of what we're witnessing. All right. Infrastructure and transportation are always going to be very high. Economic opportunities are going to be very high because we see what's going on with our farms and inflation and those things. People are scared. So, these are the things that we have got to start focusing on. When it comes to our farmers, Jesse, they are paying 2 times, if not 3 times per ton for fertilizer than they were last year. What's that going to do? It's going to increase food costs. When people are on fixed incomes, how's that going to hurt them? So the policies that have been presented to the left right now, that they are always saying or claiming that they're to help, the poor, has done the very opposite. Okay, it has created a devaluation of our currency, and inflation has skyrocketed. And those families that they always claim that they wish to help are suffering probably more than anybody. We got to fix that, man. We cannot sit by and watch this continue. I believe in statesmanship, but I also believe you have got to fight. And if you're not going to fight and stand and argue with the left about what's and push back on them, you're going to just, buckle and bend. Don't need to represent us. That doesn't make you a bad human being. Just, in my opinion, makes you not the person we need to defend what we need to defend against and fight for the families that we need to fight for. So education, we know, we see a lot of issues with our children in huts. It's been like that for years. We've lived in Harnett County for almost 20. Our kids were in huts then. Huts continue to expand. It takes money to build schools. It's very difficult. We also have seen tragedies at our schools throughout the country. We've done safety inspections and safety panels, and I believe these panels are good. I believe that it's a way to understand various viewpoints on what's going on in these areas and the issues that we face. But if you're not going to take the information that you're gaining from those things and apply it to policy, then why are you doing it? Because I feel like that some of these folks are just doing it for smoke and mirrors, man. They're just doing it to say, hey, look what I did. We did a panel. We understand the issues, but the issues still exist 10 years later.
It does seem our elected officials have taken this mindset that nothing is true unless it's been peer reviewed by 3 or 4 PhDs. And even if I'm looking at something right in front of me, I can't believe it to be true unless it has that peer reviewed stamp from a bunch of educators. So I think it's very important that we have discerning eyes for how to do things. And real quickly, you were talking about our foundations as a country being a Christian country. And it reminded me of George Washington in his farewell address, where he wrote, "Where is the security of property for reputation for life if the sense of religious obligation deserts the oaths which are the instruments of investigation in courts of justice?"
Yep.
So I couldn't agree more. I believe that it has been a fool's errand to remove God from the public sphere, and we're paying the consequences of that. But Brian, we are closing up on our end time here, so I'd like to give you just maybe if you could give us 1 or 2 minutes of a closing statement and how people can get a hold of you, how they can find you, and find more information out about your campaign.
All right. So again, thank you, Jesse, for the opportunity. I'm Brian Hawley, candidate for NC House District 53. You can find me on my website at hawleyforhouse.com. So that's spelled HAWLEYFOR house, HOUSE.com. Brian Hawley for NC House on Facebook, Instagram is Brian Hawley. I can be reached on my cell phone. I'm happy to take calls. It's 910-308-7750. I think all representatives or anyone that wish to represent families should be accessible. You can email me at brianus01@gmail, or you can email me. I changed my other email. Hold on just a second. Bear with me. brianhawley4house@outlook.com. That's my campaign one. So very accessible. At the end of the day, I believe that we're fighting evil. I mean, people may think I'm, stretching that, but I believe in my heart that, we've turned our back on our Lord and Savior. And unless we turn that around, we're going to lose our republic. And our families deserve a representative that is not just going to say they're going to do something. They're actually going to go up there and do something. They're going to know what they're fighting. And if they don't know what they're fighting, they're going to investigate it, research it before they make a decision. If you look at me on active vote matrix, you will see a stark difference in the incumbent. Not taking any shots, but there is a stark difference. Both of us are right of center, me a little bit more right, but I am heavy on individual freedoms and liberties, whereas our incumbent is more toward national side and big government things and national policy. That concerns me because we've seen the mandates that come down on medical, family, medical mandates. I don't agree with them. We've got a mandate in the state of North Carolina. If I can touch on this right now, Jesse, for you and the viewers. And I'm upset about this because I'm the ABC chairman and Andrew. We were in a meeting last night and we got a mandate from the state that we must purchase a vehicle to deliver products to our mixed beverage customers or restaurants, which they stated if there's a burden, we can, because of our tier system of our economic tiers per county, because we're a tier 2, if we feel like that's an economic burden on our facility or our organization, we have to write a letter, which I'm happy to do because they have created a burden by their mandate on every system within the state of North Carolina because of what they allowed to take place in Raleigh with LB&B Associates. Every legislator that's up there needs to understand that they have a responsibility to make sure that they hold these government organizations and those that have contracts with our government organizations accountable to fulfill what they're supposed to fulfill. And that organization allowed every store in the state of North Carolina to sit empty without product for months while they were changing over their ordering system, while they were negotiating a contract that would raise prices on us. And in my opinion, they did that because they knew that they were about to raise prices on us in July. So they allowed us to go down on inventory very heavily so that they could get very good margins when we filled all of our shelves throughout the state of North Carolina. These are things that a legislator has a responsibility to police. And I promise, and I'm not going to promise, I give you my oath of office. These are the things as your representative for NC House 53 that I will make sure is protected against. We will not allow that. My office would not allow that to take place. If I got one call from any organization throughout the state of North Carolina to advise me that was taking place, I would have stepped in immediately and put a stop to it because that is not the right way to do things. You're putting a burden on every system and every family and every community. Thank you, Jesse.
We'll get together soon again. Thank you for your time and look forward to seeing you at our next county meetings.
Thank you. See you, bud.
And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free.